and I'm here in Stockholm today with my colleague Philip Lieper, who is a domain architect of Tech Data. So Phil, what is Talos?
So Talos is award-winning software that benefits users of middleware who either want to migrate to the cloud or drive better operational control of their middleware estate. It's got pre-built interfaces into popular middleware, cloud, container platforms, and enables the easy visualization of compliance, enhances configuration consistency, and eases the implementation of migration tasks. So in more technical terms, Talos is a configuration management system. It allows you to normalize the way you work across all the middlewares in your estate. You can discover environments including Web Server Application Server, Tomcat, JBoss, F5 Big IP, pull in all their configurations and store that configuration in a standard format. With that config, you can then use a simple user interface to create templates of configurations, which you can variabilize and replay to existing environments. Talos can also do the build-out process for you. It integrates with cloud providers to be able to instantiate the required infrastructure. And you can also compare differences between environments. So you can see configuration differences that might be causing problems in your application or maybe compliance issues. And we can translate from one middleware type to another. A popular use case for that is migrating from, say, a monolithic WebSphere application server cell to a WebSphere Liberty cluster to make better use of system resources for less complex applications. Talos can build and manage Docker containers. So from the creation of the image to the instantiation of the process to the deployment of the application, all delivered using templates you've created and activities available within Talos.
How does Talos fit in with modern DevOps tooling?
Okay, so Talos is a configuration management tool. Configuration as code, that's its primary purpose. There are crossovers with other DevOps tools that are available, such as provisioning cloud environments, performing traditional ops duties such as install and fix packing. We integrate with several orchestration engines, Jenkins, Ansible, IBM Open Code Deploy, and when interfacing with orchestration engines, Talos tells the orchestrator what steps need to be taken to build out the topology. So for example, install WebSphere binaries, create several nodes and federate, set up security and restart, and then maybe to apply some configuration, create a cluster, deploy an application. All these steps are inserted into the orchestration engine by Talos, so all the user should need to do is go and execute the desired project. There are a few other DevOps tools, Puppet and Chef. They do a great job at environment provisioning. Kubernetes, which manages and scales your container environments. But where some of these tools fall down is in deep configuration management, usually boiling down to writing and maintaining your own scripts. So Talos is very complementary to these tools, even using them as separate entities, and we'll obviously continue our work to integrate as many as we can into Talos to make the process as seamless as possible to the users.
Okay, so can you describe some of the common challenges customers have in managing and migrating middleware?
So most DevOps products stop at the configuration management step. This is the point where the user is usually told to handle this particular bit, you can write a script. Or you can use a small subset of the most obvious configuration requirements. But ultimately it's left to the user to write and maintain their own scripts, which is an overhead that you don't need. You might check this collection of scripts into a source code repository, but that's not configuration as code. Over time, APIs might change, bugs may be introduced, or you may wish to change a piece of configuration you haven't used before, so redevelopment might be required. Talos pulls in all the configuration that's available using whatever API is available, JMX, REST, and stores it in a canonical JSON format. So this really is configuration as code. It's the actual configuration you've pulled in from your source, and you can be sure that whenever you apply that configuration, it's always going to be the same, with no effort in maintaining scripts. Another problem we see quite a lot is the reality that many organisations have evolved their middleware environments over years and simply don't know what they have. There might be documentation, but most environments won't be identical. And when errors occur, most of the time it's down to configuration differences that might have laid dormant, until a new version of an application takes exception to that configuration. This is where configuration compare is really useful. You can take two environments and see where the differences are and take action to rectify it, or in the process of template creation. You can create a perfect build of an application to a blank cell and simply create a template based on those differences. Then you're only getting the parts of the configuration that are required for the application, no more, no less.
Could you outline a couple of customer use cases and the outcomes Talos has helped drive?
The big one I worked on was a large clearinghouse based in Texas. I spent 2 weeks on site with the leader of the team responsible for the WebSphere estate. The organisation had around 40 cells of WebSphere in each environment, often containing 10 to 20 clusters each, and they were previously using another configuration management tool. Due to the complexity of the environments, the only automation it was possible for them to do was lift and shift migrations. This was one of those situations where they just didn't know what they had. Lift and shift was important to them, so that was the first thing we implemented, and that's really easy with Talos. So we demonstrated that within the first few days, and after setting up some Jenkins form-driven screens, we were able to use a single-click approach to create a new environment, do a full build-out, migrate all the configuration from a large cell, and the whole thing took under an hour. All automated, and most of that was installation time. Previously it had taken around 8 hours to run the configuration end to end, and most of the previous day to actually set up the environment for migration. Then we tackled a few other use cases: cluster migration and promotion. So this is pushing the application and the clusters through the environments. So here we went through clusters and we used compare mode very successfully to identify all the configuration that was required for the application, and created cluster specific templates, so templates with just the configuration required for that cluster. So these templates were then tokenized to add information that changes between environments, and now they have the ability to apply that single cluster to another cell and moving them around as best they see fit. This wasn't something they could do before. Also, configuration changes required for new application versions could be rolled up to the next environment. Again, something they weren't able to do before. So being able to run a simple change in 5 minutes rather than having to rerun the whole 8-hour job just for a simple config change and application deployment. So again, we created custom forms for these jobs so they could be executed quickly, just using a form of 7 or 8 fields. We also created a single-click fix-back and rollback job where they could just give the name of the cell and a cell that needed to be upgraded and the fix-back level it needed to be at, and Talos was responsible for ensuring that whole cell was fixed, packed and restarted. And previously that relied on custom scripts, which often failed or they had trouble with. Another example was a large offshore bank in Jersey. They had a medium-sized estate with some level of automation already. They were hosting on Windows. So they were making the transition to hosting all their environments on Linux, but at the same time their automation tool was out of support and wasn't being actively developed anymore. So we got involved. We made that migration to Linux quick and easy by allowing them to create templates from the Windows hosted environments and just push them to the Linux ones. And simply by using the tool for that initial migration, they were then performing all the steps that they needed to leave them with a great SDLC process for any future changes or management that was required.
And finally, why should partners get involved in Talos? In other words, what's in it for them?
Okay, so apart from being a great tool which adds value to your customer, as a reseller you can realise margin on the initial license sale as well as get an annuity revenue on the support. And obviously you can wrap consultancy services around that deal to offer a complete solution. Partners can also write their own toolkits. Talos is an extensible framework, and they can sell and support it. And Tech Data's other Talos partners will also be able to utilise it with their end customers, so bringing in even more license and support revenue to them. Aside from opening up conversations with new organisations, we've found that it's a really good product to take to your existing customers because you know what their estate looks like, and you can articulate the exact value the tool would bring. It just makes for an easier sell. And as we see more and more organisations of all sizes migrating to the cloud, embracing microservices, being able to offer a solution that eases that move, both in terms of time and money, it's a great differentiator for partners. It's probably also worth mentioning our partner program. So we support our resellers all the way from technical, sales enablement, to marketing, pre-sales and sales, all the way through to implementation and support, which means it's quite an easy tool to add to your kit bag.
Okay, thanks Phil. Very interesting indeed. If you do have any questions around or want to know more about becoming a Talos reseller, please get in touch with myself at lisa.hedlund@techdata.com or contact your local Tech Data representative and they'll be able to direct you through to us.